Hello, my name is Monica Brown, and I teach 8th grade U.S. History and Social Studies at Key Middle School. Today, we are going to have a lesson that looks at the Constitution, specifically the principles and the Bill of Rights. But before we get started, there are a couple of things that I do want you to have for your lesson today. You will need to have a pen or a pencil, and you will need to have paper. And if you do like writing in the journal that you keep, you most certainly can use your journal. So let's take a look at our learning targets today to see what exactly are we looking at. You are going to be able to analyze the U.S. Constitution as it reflects the principles of limited government, republicanism, checks and balances, federalism, separation of powers, popular sovereignty, and individual rights. We will also be able to analyze how the U.S. Constitution reflects the principles of limited government, republicanism, checks and balances, federalism, separation of powers, popular sovereignty, and individual rights. So let's get started and let's look at the principles of government, specifically how power is acquired, meaning how we get power. So let's start here. Take a look at this picture, and I want you to try to figure out, what is this political cartoon saying? What is the message that the artist is trying to get across to you? So let's take a look at it and see, what do we notice? It looks like it says the people don't know their true power. Let's look at that again. The people don't know their true power. So if I'm thinking about that phrase and I'm looking at the picture, I notice that there is a plank. Half of it seems to be on land, and the other half seems to be kind of over the cliff. Looks like the part that is over the cliff has maybe a politician that's talking. Looks like he's trying to make his point. And it looks like the people are on the steady part. They're on the land. Looks like they're holding some signs. But what I really notice here is that there's one guy in the very back that looks like he's turned around and he's walking away. And so it made me think, if another guy turns away and walks away, and another, and followed by every single person, who really has the power here? I think the point that the artist is making is that the people hold the power. If the people are not together, if the people are not standing on this plank here, are standing on the part that keeps that politician from kind of going over the cliff, then the politician doesn't really have any power at all. It looks like the people have all the control here. Is that what you thought as well as you were looking at this political cartoon? Well, let's take a look at more of this topic. If the people move from the board, the politician or the leader will fall. The people are the reason the leaders are in power. If people don't support their leaders, they can get rid of them. The people have the power to elect or get rid of political leaders. So as we talk about this, let's ask ourselves, what is popular sovereignty? The words listed below are all synonyms for the term popular. I want you to pick a word that you know from the list that you would like to use in place of the word popular. So we have mass, general, social, group, and public. Which word resonates with you more? Which one do you want to choose? Is it mass to represent the word popular? Remember, popular is a word that we might use for all the people. Or is it general? Maybe it's social. Maybe that resonates with you more. Or it can be group or public. I guess maybe if I'm making a decision and I am looking at all of these words, they all look really good to me. I might be swayed to choose group or public. I don't know, just my opinion. What do you think? Which one resonates more with you? So, popular sovereignty in the US Constitution, let's take a little bit more into looking at what this term really means. As we read the following excerpt from the US Constitution, I want you to look for evidence of popular sovereignty. So here we have the preamble of the Constitution. Let's take a look. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So as we go into thinking about what exactly that preamble means, let's take a look at this picture. And I want you to think about, how does this image reflect the principle of popular sovereignty? So I've provided a sentence stem for you, and your sentence stem is, this photograph reflects the principle of popular sovereignty because, and so let's take a look here. And what is this picture? It looks like there's a line, and I see a picture of it says vote here. So it looks like, and I'm going to assume that all of these people are lined up because they are voting. Is it possible that all these people are actually lined up to vote? Well, think back to that picture. Again, the people hold the power. So maybe this picture represents that the people understand that they are in charge, they are in control of electing their leader. That, we stand in line because this is important to us. If we don't do it, who will? So it looks like they're at the bottom of the photo. It says people. They are waiting in line for hours to vote in Brooklyn, New York. And this was taken in 2008. So this makes me think that these people must be waiting to vote on something they think is really important. Maybe it's a state or national election. But how is that an example of popular sovereignty? How does it show people exercising their power? So use your sentence stem, and maybe you could write something like, this photograph reflects the principle of popular sovereignty because it shows people waiting in line to vote for something that must be important to them. And it's one way that people can exercise their power. Did you come up with the same idea? I bet you did. Let's take a look at another photo here. How does this image reflect the principle of popular sovereignty? Again, I have given you a sentence stem. This photograph reflects the principle of popular sovereignty because, well, if I look here, it looks like there's a politician that might be running for election. Specifically, it looks like it's former President Obama. But look at all of those people that are there gathered around him. It looks like they are there at a political rally to support him. How do you think this would be if the people weren't there? If President Obama was just standing at a podium by himself? Who would he talk to? Who would he get his message across? See, again, the people represent the power. The people are telling him, yeah, we're for you. It's important that the people make those decisions. So as you complete your sentence stem, You might want to say that this group of people has the power to help elect the leader of the US. Now let's take a look at republicanism. Republicanism reflects the power that people have in a democratic government. So why is it important for people to have the power to elect representatives and voice their ideas and opinions in a democracy? Do you agree that voting is important? What kind of things do Americans vote for? One of the most important things that people vote for are representatives. Now that we've learned a little bit about popular sovereignty, which means that the people have the power in our government, let's look at the principles of republicanism and answer the following question. Why is it important for people to have the power to elect representatives in a democracy? It's a pretty important question. Well, why was the principle of republicanism important to the founding fathers? Basically, because they didn't want a king to be in charge. If you remember in previous lessons, we have talked about King George. Remember all of that? The 13 colonies? King George basically had all of the power. The colonists were fed up with it, and they did not want to repeat that. They knew what it was like to have one tyrannical ruler to make all of the decisions, leaving them powerless. Well, the founding fathers wanted to change that. They didn't want a king to be in charge. They wanted the people to be able to choose their leaders. In a republic, who do people vote for? Well, they vote for their senators, their state representatives. We vote for the president. You even vote for your mayor that's on the city level. You vote for your governor, city council members. And all of these people are elected officials or representatives. Now, let's look at how republicanism is reflected in the US Constitution. Republicanism in the US Constitution. Let's look at Amendment 17. It says the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years. This is an example of republicanism because, so I've provided a sentence stem for you. Let's see if you can fill that in. Let's read Amendment number 17 one more time. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years. So this is an example of republicanism because, let's finish that sentence. What do you think? Well, because it states that members of the House of Representatives will be chosen or elected by the people. How great of an idea is that? That the people are in charge of that. They don't get to hold an office unless the people come out and say it's okay. That would be the ultimate power of the people. So let's take a further look at republicanism and let's annotate this, okay? Republicanism means, okay, we have ism means an idea or a belief. We have rep, which is for representatives. And we have public, which is of the people. Republicanism means, it's Americans that created a Republican form of government, a democratic government chosen by the people. I think that's kind of exciting to me that we have a government that is at our will. It runs because we tell it what to do. And a republic describes a government in which decisions are made by elected representatives. It's not handed down by a king. It's not one guy sitting on the throne telling everybody what to do or who gets to hold an office. It's the people that get to make those decisions. So now that we have discovered about republicanism and how it's reflected in the Constitution, let's think about how this is reflected in our daily lives. So let's look here. Voter turnout in the US. In 2016, the US ranked 31st out of 35 countries for voter turnout. 31st? Why is that? Only 53% of eligible voters in the US cast ballots in 2012. Only 36% of registered voters cast ballots in 2014. This was the lowest turnout since 1942. What do you think that is? Do you think that people just don't believe they have the power? Maybe. Maybe people don't understand that voting, even that one vote, means that you hold the power. One vote can make the difference between someone winning an election and someone losing an election. So now let's debrief. We've gone over a lot. And I love this idea of popular sovereignty. I really get excited when I think about the idea of the people, the public, the general, the masses, who get a chance to think about how we choose our elected officials. If the people of the US are choosing who is elected, why do some people choose not to vote? Now, why is voter turnout so low? Do you think it's because candidates are similar or because they think that they don't make a difference? Are they lazy? They just don't register? Or they don't believe that their vote counts? Maybe they don't trust the government. What do you think? What could happen if voter turnout continues to decrease? I'm kind of concerned about that idea. A small number of people would end up choosing our leaders. That sounds a little too much like what we went through in the 13 colonies. People's voices will not be heard. Decisions will be made for you. We certainly don't want that to happen. It goes against the whole purpose of having popular sovereignty. And one other question. Why is it important for young people to vote for elected officials? You know, as you get closer to voting age and you will begin to register to vote, you will probably ask yourself some of the same questions. Why is it important for you to vote as opposed to parents or grandparents? Maybe you think differently than your parents. Maybe there's issues that mean something different to you than maybe that of your grandparents. So it's important to have a collection of people that come from different demographics to vote, to participate in the process. One last question. Do you think you will vote for your representatives when you are able? Why or why not? I'll leave you with that question, and I want you to think about, as you get older, what types of decisions do you think will be important to you? Well, not even when you're older. What types of issues are important to you right now? Now that we have gone through this lesson on popular sovereignty, I want you to put it in practice. And so now you're going to get really into this process. And I want you to create a flyer, a representatives flyer. You know, the founding fathers believed that the government should be made of representatives elected by the people. But now, over 200 years later, many people are not taking advantage of this opportunity. In fact, a number of people have not been voting. It's been decreasing in the US. Well, you're going to create an informational flyer that encourages people to vote, to participate in the process. I have a list of your must-haves that I would like to see on your flyer. They include that you must have a headline or a title, okay? And you must state your point of view. So if you are get out there and vote, then I want you to make that your headline. And then you're going to give me a definition of republicanism. Next, I want you to give me an example of how republicanism is reflected in the Constitution. Then give me 2 reasons why it's important to vote, why you should vote, why should people vote, and why the issues of voting. What would happen if people don't? And then lastly, give me some illustrations, some images. Make it interesting to look at. Make it visually appealing. I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on your flyer. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a really interesting lesson. This idea about popular sovereignty is probably one of my favorites. I hope that you were able to take away that you, the people, are in charge of how our government works. The government doesn't work without you. You make that decision. I'm Monica Brown. I teach 8th grade U.S. History and Social Studies at Key Middle School. Bye.